Ladies and gentlemen, get ready to embark on a journey like no other. Welcome to the Glum Lot Podcast,
your go-to destination for a unique blend of recovery and discovery.
I'm Brett.
And I'm Mark. And in this podcast, we will endeavor to create a safe and uplifting space for our guests and listeners to share their stories with sincerity and a touch of humor.
Remember, we are not a Glum Lot. The Glum Lot Podcast is more than just a source of entertainment. It's a beacon of hope, proving that even in the darkest moments, recovery is possible. Every story we share carries the power to inspire positive change.
So buckle up, get ready to listen, and join us in discovering the strength that lies within every individual's journey. This is the Glum Lot Podcast, where humor meets hope. All right, we are back with episode number 63, which is part 2 of our friend Ken from California. We discussed in the last episode his story. So if you're just jumping in here, go back and listen to the previous episode.
For sure.
To get up to speed. So let's get back to Ken.
Let's continue.
Okay, welcome back, Ken, for part 2 of the conversation with Ken B. And I think where we left it off was you had just been transferred over to San Quentin. And let's pick it up there. So you're in this new prison. Is it a bigger, tougher, wilder prison?
No, it was, well, it has a reputation, that's for sure.
It does, yeah.
Yeah, definitely it was, notorious, so to speak. But what had happened was that a lot of the people, California went through a prison boom, and they started building a lot of prisons. And and San Quentin was notoriously deadly for many years. And finally, they decided, okay, we're tired of this. We're tired of all the killings and everything like that. We're going to send them to other prisons where we can, we have more security. They have a safer way. Their way of dealing with them meant that they would control them much easier. And what instead they sent in a bunch of people that had served a lot of time, and who were what they call programming. And I was a programmer and doing the right thing. And so they, were sending a bunch of people in there that were doing that. And so we had the reputation still, but, and death row was in fact still there and still is, but they're just clearing it out just now. And, and this was back in 1993 that I got there. And so, I started doing, making meetings there at San Quentin. And they had a weekly meeting. I was doing my other stuff as well. I was, I was in school and stuff. They had a college program, and I enrolled in that.
Did you end up getting a college degree?
I did, a 2-year degree.
Okay.
And
nice.
A average, and and I was working as a clerk. And the neat thing about clerk, and I was a good clerk too. When I was at just before I transferred there, I was working in this technology place and was going to school there. And I was typing 120 words a minute at one point.
My goodness.
Yeah. So I was a good clerk, and the clerking could afforded me the opportunity to write, and it afforded me the opportunity to do my schoolwork at work. While I was there.
Sounds like we're finding a new purpose.
Yeah. And
so, but there also came a time in which you began to be more creative, right? Creative writing.
Yeah.
Doing something.
I started to focus on that at a point, and I figured, I might as well give it a shot. And I started writing this one particular story, and it was just something to do, so to speak. And finally, I don't remember how, but one of my coworkers, he got a hold of some of it, and he looked at it. And he said, and he read it before I had a chance to stop him from doing it. He says, "I like that. That's good." I said, "Oh, really?" I said, "Yeah." So I started. I typed it out, and I sent it in to of writing, to a publisher, and I sent it to
Why
a number.
not?
Yeah, exactly. And this one publisher sent back a notice and says, "Well, we're going to take a look at this, and maybe we're going to publish you."
Man, that had to be a boost.
Oh yeah, and I thought, wow, I've just got a new career.
Was this fiction, or was this written from your life, or
both?
It's fiction.
Okay.
But I wrote more.
Yeah.
So I started to write, and stuff like that. But eventually this particular publisher says no, thank you on that.
Okay.
So I figured, well, okay, I got shot down on this one. All I got to do is write another one, and I'll get published on that one because
the attention was there.
Yeah, and I found out real quickly that writing is not an easy thing to do.
Yeah.
But in the middle of all that, I found out that I love to write. I love that thing. I take a lot of the life experience and just finished when I was just finishing off my second novel, which didn't get published either, by the way. I joined into this creative writing class that was there at San Quentin. Still is same structure too, still there.
Wow.
And yeah, she was part of our wedding, by the way. She's a great lady.
Wow.
And
Neat.
And she I met her and I started attending a class, and she seemed to, she says, well, you do a good job and you write a good story.
Saw something in you.
And and started to encourage me, but she also started to do things like try to explain to me, you have to rewrite.
Right.
You're like, but I don't want to rewrite.
Yeah, it's perfect the way it is.
What's wrong with that? It's like,
right.
It's yeah, can't you see it's perfect? But when I started to humble myself, and definitely writing is a very humbling experience on many levels. And to the audience out there that's listening to this, if they have a sponsor that makes you journal, ha ha ha, too bad, do it. Writing, my motto became, is that writing untangles my thoughts.
Yeah,
there you go.
And so you learned this process, like more of a professional writing process.
Well,
right?
It's creative more than that, but it is professional too. I was working as a clerk while I was doing all this, and part of my job was I was the disciplinary clerk.
What does that entail?
Huh?
What does that entail?
Idiots.
Plenty of them.
Okay.
It's like I do the disciplinary reports. It's like the staff. What it became to was that I had my own office. Okay.
Man.
And I was, and they would literally, the staff would walk in, and they would verbally dictate to me what the situation is. Not all of them, but some would, because they trusted me. And they would verbally dictate what the situation was. I would type it out, and they would sign it without reading it. Okay. And they're all retired now, so I won't get them in trouble. But I was good at what I did, and I know how to tell a report and everything like that, and write it out in a very clear, concise way. And so that was the professional side of my life. But I love to write in terms of fiction, and when I got into this class, what the thing that was the irony of it all is that I was the only one writing about life in prison. The rest of them, they didn't want to talk about prison.
Yeah.
Now, that was the last place that they wanted to describe or anything like that. But this is what I felt was the thing that I wanted to tell a story about.
Sure.
Well, they say you should write what you know, right?
Well, that too. Yeah.
So you certainly know. And so, did you keep trying to get published?
I did, and there's a national prison writing contest called Pen America, and and I got noticed by them. And right about that time also is when my wife, my first wife, decided that she'd had enough of prison in me. And Jeez. So I kind of, so I'm in this class, I'm writing, and I'm doing my work and stuff like that. But that was a heavy blow on me, and I finally, I had to take a look at my world, and I almost decided, I'd had enough of this. Why do I want to stick around in this world? I'd been in that.
Reached that threshold again.
Yeah, I'd done about 25 years at that point, right around 25 years at that point. And I had said, I don't, But I said to myself, I'm going to give it one more try, and I still was doing the things I was supposed to be doing. I was doing my faith in my God, and I was also doing my work in the program of Alcoholics Anonymous. By the way, we'd gotten a warden at that point, actually a couple of years before that, who was really supportive of Alcoholics Anonymous. And as soon as she became the warden of the prison, she started, we went from 1 meeting a week to 5 meetings a week.
Wow.
Oh, that's
And that same warden was also a trustee for the Alcoholics Anonymous program in its entirety. She was a Class A trustee.
Okay.
And so she was at when the Alcoholics Anonymous gave away I think it was the 3 millionth copy of the Big Book.
Mm-hmm.
They gave it to the warden of San Quentin, and as recognizing that that's where AA came into the prison system in the first place. So they were honored. They honored them with that, and that warden, who had long retired since then, was there at that thing. And she, by the way, is a good friend of mine, and I've had dinner over at her house with her husband, her and her husband. And
isn't your story's pretty atypical though, right?
I know. It's just,
it's magical.
Yeah, everybody.
I mean, it is.
Yeah. No, I kid that, but I'm loving writing. I'm loving the process, and but I hit this wall, and I say to myself, why do I want to keep on doing this? Just got dumped by the wife. Just everything is just completely gone, and again, and
as soon as you started getting some good news, again, it's gone.
Well, there wasn't any good news on the horizon.
So life gets lifey even when you're in a controlled situation like that, huh?
Terribly, yeah.
Prison
sucked again. Still continues. Still is. And
so, go ahead.
Well, I took a walk. I stared over that abyss.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And I know that a whole lot of us in this program, and I've heard it said many, many times by people who have, long-term sobriety, that they get to that point and they say to themselves, is that all there is?
Yeah, the emotional sobriety part.
And nobody's got this, no matter how many years you have.
That's right.
How good your sobriety is. Nobody has. Still one day at a time, right?
Oh, yeah.
Now, did you work with other guys in prison sponsoring and stuff like that?
Yeah, I did my share,
Okay.
They always seem to wind up in the hole, but I did my share.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, well, it's not that different than in regular AA too.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, out of 10 people, you're going to get maybe one that stays.
Yeah. Well, it was the old adage that I heard is like, when people ask me how many people I sponsored, my answer is about half. It's like, but I work with them, and I do my best to be of service. And then I was teaching Bible studies as well, and I was doing my service to my God, and so I was doing things that I could do, and I was still accomplishing things. I was getting degrees. I was getting, I got a seminary degree while I was there too.
Wow.
And then they, because of, and the thing that I was like I said earlier is that I was trustworthy. Okay, so I got approached by this guy. He was the president of the Men's Advisory Council, the guy kind of like the union chief for the guys in, the inmates. And he asked me if I wanted to become the editor of the San Quentin newspaper.
Say what?
Yeah.
Nice.
Because he said to me, he says, because I know you're not gonna bend either to the staff, and you're not gonna bend to the inmate.
Well, and that's got to give you a bunch of freedom too in the prison.
It was interesting, to say the least. Yeah, it did, and it pissed off people to no end.
Yeah.
So you embark on
Did you get a press pass? I'm serious, because if you're going to be doing that type of thing, you got to have access to things.
You got to go watch the video, because that's exactly what happened.
Oh, okay. All right.
You did see the documentary in part, didn't you?
In part, yeah.
Where would our listeners find that documentary if they wanted
to
see
it? That documentary is on the distance between right and wrong.com.
Okay. All one word together, right?
Yeah.
The distance between right and wrong.com.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay.
And that the documentary is on there.
Who produced the documentary?
It was a gentleman who just as the newspaper had been out of print for 20 years, and we got a new warden come in, and he decided he kind of was building on the other warden's work as far as getting things going in here, and the need for information that could be trustworthy for the guys in blue and even the staff to know and say, report on this stuff. And by the way, if you want to talk, want to see the San Quentin newspaper, it's online, it's there, and it's booming. And by the way, this coming Saturday, I am going back into San Quentin to visit the San Quentin newspaper.
Oh, man.
Where would our listeners find the San Quentin newspaper online?
SanQuentinNewspaper.com.
Well, that makes it easy.
Boy, these are two easy things to remember.
Yeah, right.
So, did there come a time that you get in front of the parole board again?
Well, yeah, but I did a lot of writing in between.
Yeah,
okay,
I
all right.
hear about that.
Okay.
And when you talk about the paper, okay, I got involved in the paper, but then I got sick, okay.
Oh.
And I came down with something just about killed me. And I used to call myself Kenny. And then when I came to that death door, literally how sick I was, and I got pulled back from it. And I was kind of disappointed I didn't die because I really was ready to go, because I was still facing life, this long term. And then so, but I decided, well, maybe I need to do something for that. And I call myself Ken now, so people call me Ken. Some people call me Kenny still.
Yeah.
If you call me Kenneth, I'll think you're my mother and you're mad at me.
Yeah.
But I kept on writing, and I was in this class and we were doing good work. I was feeling great about loving the work and helping, and helping other people as well in their writing and stuff like that. And I also started teaching as a part of that, a Christian creative writing class that was at San Quentin. And also, I taught a humility class at San Quentin in the Bible class.
Oh, man!
So
this whole time you're still regularly attending the meetings too, right?
Yes. Oh, yeah. Okay. Very involved. And then we actually started another meeting on Saturday. Me and a guy who's still in my world today, and it's now the biggest meeting in the Department of Corrections in California.
Now, are those like regular AA meetings, 1 hour long, with the readings at the just like a regular AA meeting outside, right? Same thing.
No, you wouldn't see much difference. Only we noticed that the thing is that they did a lot less cussing inside of the prison than they do out here.
Really?
Isn't that something?
Wow.
Well, it's like I come, and it's like, don't get me wrong. It's like, I hear plenty of foul language inside there. It's like, believe me, they're not saints at that level. But but in the meetings, there was a reverence and a respect for that in there. And I come out to these meetings out here, and I'm hearing all this potty mouth out here, and I say,
"Bring a
dang,
bar of
girl,
soap.
You eat with that?
Brush your teeth, toilet tooth."
But so I kept writing, and then we hear about this famous author, world famous author. Her name is Joyce Carol Oates.
Okay.
And and she is world renowned. She's gotten awards at the White House and everything. And so I hear she's in there. And so I go to the college classes where, I'm a graduate. I can go in and participate in the classes and stuff like that. And I bring, writing, a book of our writing into that classroom. And I say to her, we would really love for you to come to our class and do a workshop with us. Wow. She's looking at the book and she's saying, well, I'd love to, but I'm I'm busy right now. And she had a New York bestseller going on at that time. She says, but I'd love to see this. And I says, well, by all means. And so class starts, and I'm sitting there and there's some young kid lecturing, and I'm looking at her and she's bored stiff. And she grabs the book off the table and she cracks it open. And she's all leaned back and leaned over, and I'm trying to describe it for your hearers here. And she's kind of slouched over at first, and she opens it to the front. And I know which story she's reading because that's mine. And she's slouched over at first, and as she reads a little bit, all of a sudden she sits up straight, and she starts to look at it really closely. And then she goes to the back of the book, looks at the bios, goes to the front, and she elbows her husband and starts pointing at the story. And so we get a recall at that point and say, got to, emergency account, got to go back. So I go over to shake her hand, and as I reach out, she says, "You write good."
Wow.
And I was like, I froze like a deer in the headlights. I was like, couldn't believe it. And she says, "Write good." I said, "Well, thank you." And so it kind of motivated me to keep going. And next year around, we get this flyer coming around in nationwide prisons, and we want this particular publisher with Joyce Carol Oates involved wants stories from prisons. Only one story per prison would be published, and it had to meet certain criteria. And I submitted one of mine, and she picked me. You know, so I've really got some good motivation there. And the Pen America contest, I've won some more awards than that. And some of my other short stories were being published as well along that way.
Okay. Now, if people want to read some of your writings, do you have a website they can go to? Or is it the same one?
Yeah, it's the same one. It's the
Okay.
distance between right and wrong.com.
Okay.
And that first story in there's your story?
There is one that is a memoir piece, and that's about my dad.
Okay.
And my brother was murdered while I was in San Quentin.
This is the brother who was in the Army in Texas?
Yeah.
Okay.
And his disease killed him. I don't know if he was an alcoholic. Pretty sure he was. But, and I was telling him, I says, you keep doing what you're doing, you're going to get some problems. He went to prison a couple times, and then finally he got murdered.
Yeah.
And it was just because, it was him being in the wrong places in the wrong situations.
Sure.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But I knew what that was going to mean to my father.
Yeah.
And so he came up after my brother's funeral, and he came up to see me, and we went into the, and we were out in the visiting room, and my brother, by the way, was there with him. My brother was a prison guard and in Arizona. And so he came up, and he was over there talking shop with the other guards I'd introduced him to the time before he came. And so I looked at my dad, and I said, "So what are you going to do?" And he says, "Well, I'm bringing your son home, your brother home, and I'm going to go back to Fresno where this happened." And I knew what he was going to do, and I said, "I don't think you want to be my silly." And he says, "Nobody does that to my son."
Yeah. Yeah.
So, I don't know what it represented and everything like that, but I says, there's people out there that feel like that for me. Do you want them to do to me what you're going to do to them?
Nice.
Believe me, my dad was vicious, and he knew what to do.
He's trained to be that way.
Oh yeah. Oh, he murdered a lot of people. Killed. By definition, but he'd done a lot. And I don't know if he ever went through with it or not, but I had my conversation with him to the best of my ability.
Sure.
So, but so where were we?
You were writing, getting published. You have the newspaper. Yeah. This famous author notices you. You get a bump up, and you're still in prison. So what I was wondering is, at what point do you go back in front of the parole board?
Well, I'd been going to the board, and they, on my 22nd parole board hearing, after doing, continuing to do the things I'd supposed to have been doing, they finally found me suitable. And on August 20th of 2017, I walked out of prison after serving 39 years.
Oh, Jesus. God. What was that like?
How do you put that in words?
Yeah. Well, I shared at a meeting they asked me to share at a place one time, and everybody clapped, and I says, "Well, I clapped too."
I clapped loudest.
Yeah. Yeah.
So holy shit, what a change, huh?
Well, it was, but I prepared myself well.
You did.
They sent me
a lot of acting as if.
Yeah. Yeah. And they, I had the program. I had support around me. I had a lot of friends. I had, from my faith, I had some Christian couple that was visiting me, for about 10 years, and they were they're in my life up to now. And so they were there, and there was and everything like that. I also had my program, and they sent me down to Oakland, right down in the hood. I don't know if they thought they'd scare me, but they didn't. And it was there's a little irony in going backtrack a little bit. I got a letter, just before I got out, or about about 10 months or so before they went to the board, I got this letter saying to me, if you need a bed, we got one for you. And I saw the name of it was a parole agent too at that point, and I saw the name and I knew the name.
Yeah.
And this was a staff member who had worked for me. When I had my own office, walked into my office, and did what I told you. I dictate, and he would sign it without even looking at it. And he would now become a parole agent too. And he says, "I got a bed if you need it." And he was glad to see me. And but coming out to this world, it was culture shock.
I can't even imagine.
Yeah, it was phenomenally different. Certainly the technology and everything, that was, the pace of this world out here was insanely different. But first job I got when I got out, I broke 2 bones in my foot, so I didn't work for about the first 4 months. But a first job I got out there, I was working in this machine shop, and I was filing metal off of metal. And after about 2 weeks of that, my hand swelled up on me, and I says, "I quit. I can't do it."
Yeah.
Next job I get, I'm working in a warehouse, auto parts warehouse. And the boss tells me, "See that forklift over there? Get on it and start driving it." So I got on it and started driving it. 2 weeks later, he hands me my check and he says, "You're fired. You can't drive a forklift." I never said I could.
Plus, I mean, after 39 years of not driving anything, right?
Yeah. So I go to my men's meeting. I tell that story to them, and I get a big laugh out of them. And they're all laughing. And then after the meeting was over with, the guy comes up to me. I knew cursorily. He says, "I'm vice president of a company. I'm hiring you."
Nice.
So next week I go up there to where the job is at, and sit down to have lunch with them, tell me about it. And then slides the owner of the business across from us. And he says, I see 30, I showed him, I had a resume at that point. He says, I see 30 years of hard work on your part. He says, "I want to help you too." And it's like, and so, I worked for them for about 3 years down in the Bay Area. And just before I left out of there, we had a lunch together, the owner and I. He says, "I know you're looking for different work." He says, and I'm still in touch with him today. He says, "But I want you to know you always have a job with me."
Yeah.
So while I was there, COVID hit.
Ugh.
And I think that, pretty sure I got it before the lockdown too, because
Me too.
I got sick as a dog, and it's like,
I got like December before everything happened.
Yeah, brain fog and everything else.
Yep.
So I started to do Zoom meetings. And
that's crazy. You were isolated for 39 years. You get out for a little bit, and welcome back to isolation.
Yeah.
What kind of shit is that?
Well, it's like, you put me in a room. I don't care about that.
That's true.
When you give me a window out into the world around me, I love it. And I love Zoom. I loved it. It was like, it was unbelievable. That's why I was asked to share in New York. I got to know the guy through Zoom.
Yeah. Okay.
And I started speaking, and I'd get asked to speak on occasions and stuff, and I got asked to share in UK, and in London, I guess it was. I don't know where the meeting was, somewhere in England.
Yeah.
And this girl with purple hair stayed after the meeting was over and started talking with me, and my story is she was flirting, and
we'll probably get to the bottom of that one.
Yeah. Good luck. You'll hear her version whenever she shares. Her name is Virginia. So if you want to looking for the next storyline,
just so the listener knows, if you want to find out what happens, the next episode is Virginia.
Sweet Virginia.
She's the purple-haired woman.
She has 37 years of sobriety.
Fantastic.
And so we started to, first we Zoom dated, and then we eventually got connected. She lived in Chico. I'm up in the Bay Area. It's about a 2-hour drive. So I started driving up here. And right at the beginning of what we started to doing, I was asked by one of my friends if I would take a car that he was giving to his daughter and drive it cross country to New York City to him. for them. And so I asked Virginia if she wanted to do that.
Wow.
Yeah. And and her friends are hearing about this guy who done the life sentence in prison and everything. They're saying, "No,
Let's go
don't
for a
do it.
ride."
Are you crazy?"
Right. It's a very long date.
Yeah.
Well, we call it dating on steroids.
Yeah.
You really get to know each other, though, right?
Oh well, she made sure to bring those relationship books, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And and she'd break them out, and she'd start, and I'd start grousing because that's what men do. Okay, we cannot do that kind of stuff without some little resistance.
Yes.
But she'd break out these relationship books, and she'd start going in there, and she'd ask a question. And it's like relationships and everything like that. That's what this program has taught me is that it does for me. Is it gives me this ability to interrelate with another human being.
Mm-hmm.
And so she'd ask a question, I'd rattle off what I said. She says, "Oh, that's pretty good." And she'd start to go into the next question, and I'd say, "No. Your turn." And and so but we got to know each other on this drive in a very real way. And we stopped, by the way, at Dr. Bob's house.
Very
nice.
cool.
So that was cool. We loved it.
Stop
We
off
sat
in
down
Akron and see what's up.
Yeah, and we sat down at the table where Bill and him talked and everything like that. There, by the way, if you look at the steps coming up to Dr. Bob's house, there's 12.
Yeah.
And so we went to New York, and COVID was kind of still going on there. And she also had a sponsee via Zoom that was now, that was living in New York. And so we got to, we brought her down to New York Park, and we did her third step prayer with her and everything like that. And that was a great thing to do. We made some meetings while we were there. COVID was still kind of making things a little sketchy at that time.
Yeah.
But finally I moved up here to Chico to be with her. And on February 2/22/22, at 2/22, we got married. And
was there a pre-significance to the 2/22? Or did it just happen that way?
No, she wanted it that way.
Okay.
Maybe she thought I might forget, but I don't know.
You're one of the lucky ones, because my wife asked me, and I'm like, September.
I couldn't right
17th, 18th.
Yeah.
God, I couldn't.
Yeah.
It's anchored in. I can tell you that.
Yeah, I bet.
But
So are you pretty heavily involved in your local AA?
We've started some meetings, and they've kind of blown up on us. But people, we kind of implemented some policies like don't cuss, and people didn't like it.
Yeah.
And so they rebelled, and they so we're not involved with them anymore. But we let live and let live.
Yeah.
I've been doing a men's group online since COVID started. It's called Carafig, and it's out of As Bill Sees It. It's page 2. I don't remember what page number it is, but it's called Carafig, and it's Bill writing to a prison group. And he says, as far as you coming out, we could care a fig that you've done time. This is what you are now, and not what you were is what matters to us. So it's on the AA website. If you want to look it up, it's on Thursday nights at 7:00 Pacific time.
Are you still involved in? Are you part of the H&I now?
I've spoken at meetings there, but H&I in this area is not as active.
Okay.
But what I'm doing right now, is I drive, and what I do is I drive to prisons, and tonight or tomorrow morning, I'm going down to Soledad State Prison, a 4-hour drive, and I'm picking up a guy who's paroling after serving 35 years.
Wow.
Is he sober?
Is he programmed?
I'm not sure. I don't know.
So you never know what you're going to get, right?
Doing some 12-step.
Yeah. Well, I've been doing this for over a year now, and I'm driving for 2 nonprofits, and we welcome them. I'm welcoming them out the door.
Yeah.
Generally, it's the ones that have done a long time that are pretty stable, and the ones that have short time, And believe me, I've got some short timers. I had one guy come out of the prison system. He was loaded on meth.
Nice.
And, but, every one of them get a long conversation about sobriety because most drives are about 4 hours long.
Right.
But I welcome them out, just like, the same nonprofit I work for. One of them is the same one that picked me up at the gate. And they take me to breakfast. And oh God, the food out here was so good and still is. Like I love it. It's like the food. But I drive for these people, and I welcome them out. Yeah, oh yeah, I see it.
I enjoy it too.
Mine is too. It's like
man.
My answer to that is why have a 6-pack when you can have a keg? It's
That's right. That's right.
But I can say to them, I did that time too. You can come out here and you can have a life worth living while you're out here.
How about that?
Right, and you are a testament to that.
Yeah. So
now, are you still actively writing?
I've got a couple stories I've been working on, but I'm doing a whole lot of editing because all those stories that I wrote while I was incarcerated, my wife, Virginia, is an English teacher. Okay. So you believe me, she's not letting anything go through her hand without her touching it. And there was I had 3 novels, and she's editing the 3rd novel right now, and I'm working on it and rewriting it. And I hadn't touched it in a while, and I've been working on a few short stories that I wanted to do. She finally got tired of it all, and she brought this person to our home, who was a published author, and she was self-published. Okay. And everything I knew about self-publishing at that point was, it's like, that's the lowest stuff. You get verboten. You don't want to do that.
Yeah.
But this person came in there, and she showed me she had a successful career doing what she's doing. She's very well off on it.
Yeah.
And she sat down and she says, you do this, and you can through Amazon. By the way, you go straight on Amazon, and the distance between right and wrong will take you to my book too.
Yep.
And she said, you do this, and you take this step, and you go here, and you do this stuff. And I'm sitting there and I'm nodding and saying, cool, great, I got it. Yeah, okay, great. And she thought maybe 2 years from now I'd call back and say, well, what was that? 2 weeks later I had my book out.
Nice.
They were all ready. The stories were ready.
Yeah.
So I just started into this publishing career of mine, for what it's worth, and definitely it's a challenge.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you think the future holds for you at this point? You're not really retired, because you're still doing a lot of writing and you're still doing driving, and right?
Well, fortunately, and much to my surprise, thanks to the ex-wife, I get a little bit of retirement pension. And
right, San Quentin didn't have a retirement program.
Yeah.
No, they did not. They offered me $200 gate money and said, "See you later.
Yeah, don't come back."
Believe me. And when they did away with clerks like I do with that work, and when they did that, they had to hire somebody, pay them $70,000 a year to do this.
Of course, right? Of course.
So, and then and I'm on Facebook, which I met you guys at, and many of my Facebook friends are retired staff from San Quentin, including the retired warden of San Quentin.
Nice.
And they're in my world. They're rooting for me, and they're hurrah, and they give the thumbs ups when I talk about my writing and stuff like that. And when I'm doing what I'm doing, and it's like when I'm going out, I go over and I pick up guys. I post a thing on that, telling them. Oh, and I just started a new page, web page, and let me tell you where it is. I'll get it to you just right now.
What is this new web page about?
It's my writing.
Oh, okay.
It is Incarcerated Inc. Stories from Within. And if you want to look on Facebook for me, that's where you can find me too.
Okay.
And
now, what would people look up on Facebook?
Incarcerated Inc. Stories.
Is it INK or INC?
INC.
Okay.
Yeah. So
good.
Now, I'm living life, and it's like it's got its bumps and its grinds, and it's I'm getting old. I'm 60, 66, and life has its I'm living life on life's terms. I've just got done working out today, but I'm going to be getting up at dark 30 tomorrow to drive 4 hours to go pick up this guy. That's a little bit of wear and tear on me, but and when I come back up, I'm stopping in the Bay Area, and I'm going to promote some of my books and stop at some bookstores, and I'm staying the night because on Wednesday night I'm sharing down in the Bay Area at a men's meeting.
Nice.
And I'm talking, bring my experience, strength, and hope in there. And they're going to have me wearing a suit and a tie. I love dressing up too, by the way.
Yeah, right.
I love
Look
it.
dapper.
I really do. And it's just to respect the program and what it's about. But I don't mind getting grungy either. It's all good to me.
Yeah. Now, let me ask you this: that experience you had on the bridge, where you had reached a point at which it was either going to be you're either in or you're out, right?
Yeah.
What can you tell somebody who's young, who has those types of feelings? What can you offer them?
Don't quit before the miracle happens.
Yeah.
That's the reality. And it's like, the thing that I've, more than anything else is that as an alcoholic, I have this mindset that the world ought to be, quote, fair. And because it doesn't turn out the way I think it is, I kind of come to this conclusion that the world is not fair and it's not working right. But the reality for me is as I worked through my life and I found, worked through my mistakes and came to a place in sobriety, and I look back on it is the only problem with what I was seeing is that I had a lack of acceptance about what was the reality of this world, because the rest of the human race also sees the world the same way, is exactly the same. It's not fair, and one person's fair is not another person's fair. And if you ask one person, I should be still in prison the rest of my life, and you ask another person, I should have got out after 7 years. It's just all the people in between. But I found out as I worked this program, as I did the steps, as I applied these principles to my life, I had a life that was worth living. There was a satisfaction, a deep satisfaction.
So also, it sounds like your higher power had a plan for you.
Oh, indeed.
You just didn't know it.
No. And as I said when I started this, I've seen miracles in my life. Situations I don't really talk about.
There's a lot of God moments in this story.
Oh yeah. And I've seen some real God moments in my life, and but I don't want people thinking that. And the other thing that I like to talk about is that when I come to a God, me as an alcoholic in my disease, I want God to act like a drink does. Never happens. Okay, God and a drink are not the same thing, but I want him to be that way.
Sure.
But when I start to see that God is not going to let me see him or God in the same way, then I can look to see where God wants me to be, and I can see God moving in my life and taking me in different directions. And every time I've had the patience and I didn't quit and I didn't give up, I've always seen that it was worth it to get past that next hurdle. So
it does seem that way, doesn't it?
It does.
It shows that it was that way, clearly.
And so before we end our time here, can you give us that website one more time for the listeners?
The distance between right and wrong.com.
Great. Well, Ken, it's been great to have you on. And,
it's been my pleasure.
We can't wait to talk to Virginia and see what she has to say about you. But so listeners got to tune into the next one too to find out what happens, right?
Yeah. Well, my story is the right one, okay?
Okay, gotcha. So until next time on the Glum Lot Podcast, I'm Mark.
And I'm Brett.
Yeah, keep coming back. It works.
All right, thanks, Ken. As we wrap up another episode of the Glum Lot Podcast, we want to extend our heartfelt gratitude to each and every one of you who tuned in today. Navigating the path to recovery from alcohol and other substances is a journey filled with challenges, triumphs, and self-discovery. Remember, we're not affiliated with Alcoholics Anonymous, but we're here to provide a safe space for open conversations about the complexities of recovery. Your stories, courage, and resilience inspire us and our listeners alike. If you or someone you know is on the transformative journey, know that you're not alone. Join us next time as we continue to explore the diverse facets of recovery. Until then, stay strong, stay connected, and remember that each day is a step towards a brighter, sober tomorrow. Thank you for being part of the Glum Lot community.